Well, effective, I don't know, like 2 minutes ago, the Office of Management and Budget has suspended all, not some, all federal grants, and this is from their press release, activities related to obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance and other relevant agencies, activities that may be implicated by executive orders, including but not limited to financial assistance for foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, DEI, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. Basically, anyone who wants to keep granting out our money has to put forward for review all the information, including accountability, pertaining to these grants by February 10th. But the bureaucrats, they're hemming and hawing because God forbid we want to know how our money is being distributed, right? Like, we warned you about this a year ago. You want to help illegals into the country, but you can't give them money directly from the federal government? No problem. Just grant it to secondary and third-party organizations. Enter NGOs, non-government organizations that have almost no accountability and don't require the same transparency of the federal government. These are our tax dollars getting allocated to a ton of garbage that bypass conventional government spending pretty much under the radar, much of which goes to whatever the agenda of the deep state is. And we're talking about billions of dollars here, folks. So no wonder today these NGOs are suing the federal government because Trump cut off the gravy train. I mean, think about this. For years, unaccountable government money just giving away billions of dollars to these people, completely unaccounted for. New sheriff comes into town, and Trump goes, oh, hold on a sec. What's all this money going to? And nobody could answer that, or they didn't want to. So he cuts it off. And now these people are suing him? Guys, we, the taxpayers, we don't owe these NGOs a dime. The audacity of these people is shocking. What's even crazier is the purple-haired congresswoman, top Democrat, Rosa DeLauro, okay? And someone else in the Senate also was on this letter, sent a letter to OMB today, basically urging them to reverse that memo and that directive. Yeah, I'm sure OMB will get right on that. Some purple-haired lib from my home state of Connecticut, no less, wants OMB to defy President Trump's orders, who's their boss. Yeah, right, lady. He'll get right on that. They claim in their letter, the president has issued a number of executive orders unilaterally to freeze or contravene critical funding, providing in bipartisan laws, sowing chaos across states, families, and communities. In that vein, you have now issued a series of OMB memoranda that only further disarray and inefficiency. Cool. I mean, now some Democrat all of a sudden is worried about government disarray and inefficiency? These NGOs and this money, that is the inefficiency. That's the point. It is remarkable, like, how diametrically opposed the two political parties are on this. Unbelievable. The reason Democrats are so in favor of this is because this is how they funnel taxpayer money. Republicans have just been asleep at the wheel. They did nothing about this till Trump came along. But this is how Democrats funnel a ton of money back to their cronies to do their bidding with no accountability. Every cabinet department has huge swaths of tax dollars set aside, authorized by Congress to be granted out to basically anything, just so long as the consultant they hire, who, by the way, many times just came from the agency that they're reapplying to, and that's the D.C. recycling game. So as long as they fill out the right things on the grant applications, that money is almost guaranteed. And what does this money go to? Well, as Caroline Levitt nicely mentioned today,
DOJ and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money.
50 billion on condoms. That's a lot of condoms. And most of them were being used for bombs, too. And then this is like, if this is not bad enough, I mentioned on this show a year ago, almost 600 million went to the Red Cross in 2023. And what did the Red Cross turn around and do with it? They aided a bunch of illegal migrants with it, which is against the federal law. But they didn't care because it was the government. It wasn't the government spending money directly on it. It was given to the NGO that then turned around and used that government money to do the bidding of the Democrats, but it was no longer accountable. What's even crazier is that every cabinet office has tons and tons of money that they just hand out like willy-nilly. There's no real process here. The Pentagon, watch Pete gut this one by end of week one, $100 million in 2023. Interior, 2022, they lit $295 million on fire with literally nothing to show for it. Top department on the chopping block, the Department of Education, that was an ATM for almost $700 million last year. And once that money leaves the government's hands and goes to these NGOs, like I said, they can just do whatever they want with it. They can write down on the audit anything they want, but it's not necessarily true. And then they get more next year. I mean, like, right, what could go wrong? Possibly go wrong with that. Oh, actually, I know what could go wrong with that. A global pandemic that would, plunge our economy into disarray and add $10 trillion to our debt. Oh, come on, Carl, these nonprofits are helping. But no, they're not. Yeah, but you want to go that route? Sure, because guess what one of these nonprofits were helping people, as the purple-haired congresswoman from CT was saying? EcoHealth Alliance. You remember these guys? Over the last decade and a half, actually, was the proud recipient of $46 million via 11 grants from the National Institute of Health, the NIH. Remember Fauci's little pet project? Over the last 10 years, they got $39 million from the Department of Defense, and since 2008, they received an additional $94.3 million. And what did EcoHealth Alliance do? Oh, yes! They funded gain-of-function research at the Chinese Wuhan coronavirus lab after the federal government, banned it in 2014 from directly funding gain-of-function research. They just gave it to an NGO. You see why this is a problem? Just one of these NGOs literally helped build the thing that destroyed the global economy. They helped with illegal immigration. They funded all kinds of left-wing causes, including suing Donald Trump's administration. They rendered aid and legal assistance to criminals, whoever else, and gave us a global pandemic. I have personally witnessed. Look, when I was in the Trump administration, this is what I did. I oversaw some of these grants, millions of dollars. Horse stable. They claimed to do veterans horse therapy, but couldn't show me any evidence that they were actually had a single veteran set foot on their premises. I visited the place in Colorado. They got $10 million to fund some personal horse project. In fact, actually, the federal government gave $1 trillion of these grants to states in fiscal year 2022. That was a record high. It represented over 1/3 of all the state's total revenue. You imagine that? Unaccounted for money that is 36% of states' revenue? Some bureaucrat in the federal government that nobody elected, they're in charge of it. And I'm sure a bureaucrat living in a 98% left-leaning blue D.C. would never leverage money like that to influence a state, right? Once again, these people are literally leveraging our taxpayer dollars that they steal from us at gunpoint, because taxation is theft, to circumvent the 10th Amendment. That's why Trump paused it. It's absolutely unaccountable. And once it's allocated by Congress, it's controlled by people who were never elected, and then it goes even further to people that have no accountability. Yeah, there's a couple good ones out there that actually do what they say they're doing. But the mere fact that some of these grants attributed to a global pandemic, good enough for me to revisit the entire issue, cut it off. Sorry, your soup kitchen gets cut short for a couple weeks while your grant's reviewed. These NGOs are the financial backbone of the left's agenda, oftentimes employing ultra-left political operatives, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do their bidding. You stop this flow of billions of dollars, you can defund a huge swath of the anti-Trump and anti-America movement.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.